Hello my creative friends, I'm Heather North from heatherscreativeblessings.com. Today is Blog Hop Day for the new Stamp of Approval Lovely Notes collection. And for this special video, I actually have two cards for you. I have here a piece of Whisper White cardstock from Stampin' Up! Cut to 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inches, and some Squeezed Lemonade Distress ink. I'm just going to take my mini ink blending tool and pick up some ink and then tap off some of the excess onto my scrap paper, in this case my grid mat, before I go onto my cardstock in kind of a swirly, circly motion. Doing this helps eliminate some of those circle stamps you can get from the sponge of the blending tool. I also try and press very lightly. So I've come in here with some picked raspberry distress ink and a second ink blending tool, and I'm just going to go back and forth between the pink and the yellow to create a little bit of an orangey color in between. And I just go back and forth until I get a blend that I like. And then I'm going to switch to my next color, which is Twisted Citron, and I'm going to go to the other side of the yellow, and this is basically in rainbow order. So you think of it like this: yellow and blue make green, so I'll have yellow and blue with green in the middle. And I'll just go back and forth between each color until I get a blend that I like. My next color is going to be Peacock Feathers, and after I blend it with the green, I'm going to go down to the bottom of my cardstock and start moving from right to left down there. And I'm just going to turn on some music, let you watch this. I will have a supply list down below with everything that I use. Once this ink dries, I'm going to die cut it out with this concentric circles die from Neat and Tangle. This is included in the Lovely Notes collection. I'm also going to die cut a couple of these larger frames out of black cardstock. In the meantime, I'm going to do some stamping. This is a piece of Whisper White cardstock again. It's cut to 3 3/4 inches by 1 1/8 inch. And I'm going to take a couple of stamps from the wonderful Wreath stamp set. This is by Catherine Pooler Designs, and I'm going to stamp the heart just down a little bit, and then I'm going to turn it upside down. Sorry, you can see my head and my sunglasses. I'm going to turn the stamp upside down and stamp again. This elongates the string. And the next one on the right hand side, I'm going to go up a little bit, and so that my strings, my heart strings, hang down at different levels. By the way, this was Melon Mambo ink from Stampin' Up! Next, I'm going to take the word on this stamp set. It's wonderful. And I'm going to take some black Stays On ink, and I'm going to ink this up to the top of that strip, and I guess the top left. And then I'm going to grab another sentiment from one of the other stamp sets called Fill in the Blank Birthday. Both of these stamp sets are from Catherine Pooler Designs. And I will stamp that to the bottom right to create my sentiment. I could send this card to just about everyone in my life because everybody's listed on there: husband, nephew, niece, son, friend, best friend, teacher, sister, in-law, step-sister. Catherine has included just about everything that you can think of to send it to the special people in your life. Now back to the die cut piece. I used a metal shim and ran this back and forth a couple of times to make sure that it die cut everything out. And now I'm going to take some Glad Press and Seal, and I'm going to just place it over my die cut and then press firmly, because I want it to pick up all of those little concentric circles at once, and you can see it does. And I'm just going to peel off this paper. I was going to throw that away, but I end up using it later on. Now, let me tell you this. I wish I would have die cut this centered onto that cardstock. I wasn't thinking when I did this. But if you do this, center up your die cut before you run it through the die cutting machine. And here's one of those black frames I told you that I cut before. I'm going to take some stamp runner adhesive. It's like little tiny dots of adhesive. And I'm just going to put it over the circle areas. It's kind of a temporary adhesive when it first goes on, but after a while it sets up and it will attach permanently. So I'm just centering this up onto my black cardstock piece, and I'm pressing in those little pieces and pulling away the press and seal at like a 45-degree angle. I don't know, just pulling it back on itself. And then I'm going to very carefully peel off the top layer of that die cut, and what I am ending up with on my black cardstock is the negative piece. So another way you could do this if you didn't have the stamp runner is to just glue all of those pieces in, but I found that this method was a lot easier. And this is just a little adhesive remover. You can find them. I'll see if I can find one and link to them for you. I actually got this one from Creative Memories back in my scrapbooking days. And it's just like a little rubber eraser kind of, and it picks up all of the adhesive gooeys. And we're going to need that for later on when we do our embossing. If you leave the gooeys on there, and some of them still will be on there, but I try and get most of them, any gooey you leave will attract the embossing powder. So let me grab that positive piece, that positive die cut, and I'm going to center it on that second black frame that I die cut from the Concentric Circle dies by Neat and Tangled. Isn't that just the coolest thing ever? I love that you can use both the positive and negative parts of this die, and I've actually got even more ideas on how to use it. Oh, just never enough time for stamping. So for the center, you could stamp directly on it, but we already stamped on this little strip, so I'm going to go ahead and adhere this to my card. It would be difficult to do the heart string upside down, but not impossible. You just have to mask if you wanted to stamp directly onto your die cut piece. So I adhered it with that same stamp runner adhesive, and I'm going to attach my panel to a top folding card. It's cut to 5.5 by 8.5 inches and then scored at 4 1/4. So you end up with the same 4 1/4 by 5.5 inches that we're used to in card making, but it's cut and scored just a little bit differently than I normally do. I used some 3M mounting tape to just pop this up on my card, and I tried to center it as best as I can, and you know, didn't. And then I tried again, and then once I have it as close as I can get it, or when I can't peel it off without ruining the card base, I call it good. I press it down. Now for our negative journal tag. I'm going to come in again with some more of that adhesive remover and trying to get all the adhesive I can off. And then I'm going to use a deactivator tool. If you had an embossing buddy or anything that can kind of remove static and make the gummy sticky parts less gummy and sticky, will do. Because if it is sticky, then your embossing powder is going to stick to it. So I'm going to take a few of the stamp images from this wonderful wreath stamp set, the little birdie and the music notes. I'm going to ink those up in Versamark ink and put some white embossing powder from Stampin' Up! Over them. And then I will take one of the sentiments from the butterfly notes from Craft & Puller Designs, and I'm going to ink that up as well. In between each of the stamp inking, I'm going to put my white embossing powder on because it was difficult to see Versamark on that black paper. Now some of the bits are going to get stuck in places you don't want them. I used a dry paintbrush to get most of them off, and I flicked it really well, but there'll still be some embossing powder in places. And you just have to go with it. That's what I did with this. You just have to go with it, or you go crazy trying to fix them all. I'm going to let you in on a little secret. Even with all of the stamps and dies that I used on these two cards, I still didn't use everything in the collection. This thing is jam-packed. Okay, I'm going to play some music and you can just watch me stamp and heat emboss. After I'm done heat setting it, I just take a Swiffer cloth and I wipe off any of the deactivator tool or embossing powder that's left on there. Sorry, it's blurry. My light had knocked into the camera view and that was what it was trying to focus on. There we go. And anyways, I just wiped that clean. And for the second card, I've got a 4 1/4 by 11-inch piece of cardstock that is scored at 5.5 inches. So that again, you end up with a 4 1/4 by 5.5 inch strip. And I was just going to put it on that white cardstock, and then I decided, ooh, how would it look to have that leftover background piece as the background to my card base? And of course, I ran out of adhesive and I made a big mess. Okay, this is what it's like behind the scenes when I'm crafting. I'm not perfect. Ugh. So I found my stamp runner that I had buried on my table and I just used that to fill in the blanks. And this is where I realized, whoops, I had not die cut it centered. And I thought, what if I flipped it upside down and had the colors differently? I'm like, no, I'm just going to adhere it and let it be a little bit imperfect. It will be okay. Whoever gets it's gonna love it. Once again, I popped this panel up with some foam adhesive. I adhered it as best I could, centered as I could, but covering up that white space. And I don't think it looks too bad because the colors behind it blend so beautifully. And here are my first 2 cards for the blog hop. Speaking of the blog hop, you're going to want to go over to my blog and leave a comment and follow along the blog hop in order to get a chance to win one of these collections for yourself. Not only is there a blog hop today, but Catherine's doing 2 more blog hops over the next 2 days. And each day she's going to give away a box to 1 lucky commenter. There's more details over on my blog, so you can check that out. My fingers and toes are crossed that one of my followers gets to get one of those boxes for free. If you like my card today, please give me a thumbs up and consider subscribing to my YouTube channel to see more cards from me, including more videos with stamp of approval collection products this week. I hope that you guys find some time today to get a little bit creative. Bye!